Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Ika, and I'm here to present my findings for Assessment 3, Driving Electric Vehicle Innovation Through Smarter Economic Policy. In this presentation, I will walk you through how key macroeconomic indicators influence the EV industry and how targeted economic policies can help drive sustainable innovation. We will look at three main areas. First, the current and microeconomic conditions. And the second, the impact of government policy interventions. And thirdly, the implications for EV business like ours. So let's start by understanding the economic context that shapes the EV market. To assess the environment in which EV innovation operates, we must first look at these pillars of macroeconomic performance: GDP, inflation, and unemployment. GDP, or gross domestic product, measures the total value of goods and services produced in a country. It's essentially the economy's report card. A growing GDP signals expanding opportunities for investment, production, and innovation. Next, we have inflation, which tracks changes in average prices. Moderate inflation is healthy. It encourages spending and investment, but if prices rise too quickly, consumers' purchasing power declines, which can suppress demand for big-ticket items like electric vehicles. Lastly, unemployment measures how much of the labor force is without work. High unemployment indicates underutilized resources, both human and economic, and usually signals weaker demand. Together, these are three indicators from the foundation of how we assess the macroeconomic climate of EV innovation. Now, when we combine these indicators, we begin to see how they interact and shape business opportunities. For instance, a rising GDP usually reflects economic expansion. That means higher consumer incomes, stronger demand for vehicles, and more room for companies to innovate. When inflation falls, production costs might ease. That's good news for manufacturers, but it can also hint at a weaker demand across the economy. Something policymakers must watch carefully. Meanwhile, higher unemployment trends tend to reduce consumer confidence and spending for the EV market. This means fewer potential buyers and slower adoption rates. In short, these macroeconomic trends provide valuable signals for firms like ours, helping us align our strategies with economic cycles. One of the most effective tools governments can use to stimulate economic activity is this fiscal policy, particularly tax rebates. Let's break this down simply. When governments reduce taxes, consumers' disposable income increases. With more money in their pockets, people tend to spend more. This leads to higher aggregate demand, or AD. The result? A short-term boost in GDP as businesses respond to increased demand, a reduction in unemployment, and possibly a slight rise in inflation as the prices adjust upward. In the EV sector, this can be a powerful catalyst. For example, if the government offers rebates on EV purchases, it can directly increase adoption rates, making electric mobility more affordable and accelerating market growth. However, while short-term stimulus boosts the economy in the long run, output tends to stabilize around what economists call potential GDP. The level of production and economy can sustain without triggering excessive inflation. In the long run, equilibrium, price adjusts, and the growth stabilizes. So what does this mean for business like ours? It highlights the importance of long-term planning, aligning production, marketing, and R&D strategies with sustained rather than temporary demand. For the EV industry, this means focusing on consistent consumer engagement, innovation in battery technology, and brand positioning, rather than relying solely on temporary incentives. Now let's talk about another critical policy factor, trade tariffs. A tariff is essentially a tax on imported goods. While it can offer short-term protection to domestic producers, it also raises prices and can reduce global efficiency. Here is how it works. Firstly, tariffs make imported material or components more expensive, and then domestic producers gain some relief from foreign competition, at least initially. Lastly, however, consumers face higher prices in the industries that rely on imported components like the EV sector may suffer from increased costs and supply chain disruptions. In a globalized market where EV production depends heavily on cross-border supply chain, tariffs can do more than good in the long term, and do more harm than good in the long term. So what does all of this mean for our organization? Firstly, higher tariffs on imported EV batteries and components can directly increase our production costs. This not only reduces our profit margin, but can also delay product rollouts. Secondly, tariffs and trade barriers can cause supply chain delays, especially for critical components sourced internationally. To counter these risks, our recommended strategic responses are diversify our supplier base, reducing reliance on any single country or region, invest in local research and development, particularly in battery innovation to strengthen domestic capabilities, collaborate with policymakers to advocate for balanced trade policies that support innovation while protecting local industry. By doing this, we can position ourselves as a resilient, forward-thinking company, one that thrives regardless of global economic fluctuations. To wrap up, we think that economic policy and the macroeconomic indicators play a vital role in shaping the future of electric vehicle innovation. A rising GDP signals opportunities for growth. Moderate inflation supports stable pricing and demand. Lower unemployment fuels consumer confidence. Smarter fiscal policies like tax rebates and can stimulate adoption and innovation. Meanwhile, careful trade management ensures stable costs and supply chains. Ultimately, a smarter economic policy isn't just about numbers. It's about enabling sustainable innovation, empowering business to build a cleaner, smarter mobility for the future. Thank you for listening. That's all I have to say about that.